Okay, so you've given us a ton of fascinating research and articles all about leadership,
Uh-huh.
but with a pretty clear focus on emotional intelligence.
Yep.
We've got excerpts from Primal Leadership
Right.
by Goleman, Boyatzis, and McKee,
Right.
and a couple of really interesting studies on leadership development and how organizations change.
Okay.
So let's unpack this.
Right.
What are the most important things that you should know about emotional intelligence and the impact it has on leadership? Based on all of this material, get ready for some serious aha moments.
All right. Well, I think it's fascinating how all of these sources really challenge the old school business view that emotions are just distractions or noise.
Yeah.
They actually make a really, really strong case that emotions are at the very heart of great leadership.
It makes me think about how we often talk about leaders needing to be level-headed, in control.
Yeah.
Almost as if emotions were the enemy.
Exactly. And you know what's powerful about primal leadership is how it highlights the impact of a leader's emotions on everyone around them.
Right.
It uses a great example of Mark Lower, the CEO of Soundview Technology during 9/11.
Oh, wow.
Some of his employees were very deeply affected by the tragedy, of course.
Of course.
And instead of just carrying on with business as usual, he actually invited everyone to the office to grieve and process together.
Oh, wow. That must have been so meaningful for the team.
Yeah.
It seems like he just recognized that people needed the space to be human, to deal with their emotions, before they could even begin to think about work.
That's a key element of what Goleman calls resonant leadership.
Okay.
And it's not about forcing positivity or suppressing difficult emotions.
Right.
It's about acknowledging the full spectrum of human experience and creating a space where people feel safe to bring their whole selves to work.
Yeah.
And the impact is huge.
Okay.
But then on the flip side, you have dissonant leaders.
Right.
They might be really harsh,
Okay.
or they create a tense atmosphere.
They actually end up hindering their team's performance.
So it's not just about being nice,
No.
but about creating an environment where people can actually thrive,
Exactly.
both emotionally and in terms of their work.
Yes. Have you ever worked with a dissonant leader?
Oh, yeah.
It can be pretty draining, right?
It can be very draining, very.
And the research backs this up.
Oh, really?
One study we have here found that 42% of workers
Wow.
have experienced yelling or verbal abuse at work.
That's a lot.
It's shocking.
That's really eye-opening,
right.
that statistic.
Yeah.
It really makes you realize just how much leadership styles can impact people on a day-to-day basis.
Totally.
And speaking of impact, these sources really got into the science of how emotions can affect our thinking and behavior.
Yeah.
They talk about brain-emotion connection.
Right.
And how our emotions can sometimes hijack our better judgment.
That's where understanding the interplay between the prefrontal cortex,
the
thinking brain,
right,
and the amygdala.
The emotional brain becomes so crucial.
I see.
Think about it this way. Have you ever made a decision
Oh, yeah.
that you later regretted when
Right.
you were feeling really stressed or angry?
Oh, absolutely. I think we've all been there.
That's your amygdala taking over.
Okay.
And for leaders, that can be a real problem. Emotional intelligence is about being able to manage those really intense emotions
Okay.
so that they don't control your actions and negatively affect your team.
So it's not about being emotionless,
Right.
but about developing the self-awareness.
Yes.
To recognize your emotional triggers and choosing how to respond instead of just reacting.
Exactly. It's about being in control of your emotions rather than letting them control you.
I see.
And that's where this concept of leadership styles comes in.
Okay.
Primal leadership identifies 6 key styles: visionary coaching, affiliative, democratic pace setting, and commanding.
Okay.
What's really interesting is that each style has its own strengths and weaknesses, and effective leaders know how to adapt their style to different situations.
It's like having a set of leadership tools
Yes.
and knowing which one to use depending on the task at hand.
Exactly. Some situations might call for a visionary leader
Okay.
who can inspire and motivate with a compelling vision for the future.
Right.
Other situations might benefit from a more collaborative, democratic approach.
The sources seem to highlight the visionary leader as being really effective.
Yeah.
When an organization needs a fresh direction or is facing a major turnaround.
Right.
They use the example of David Ogilvy,
Oh, yeah.
the advertising legend,
He's great.
who was known for his ability to connect with his employees on a personal level
Yeah.
and inspire them with his vision.
Ogilvy is a great example of how visionary leadership can be so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just about having a great vision.
Okay.
It's about being able to communicate that vision in a way that resonates with people, that inspires them to buy in and work towards a common goal.
And then there's the affiliative leadership style,
Yes.
which focuses on building those strong relationships
Yeah.
and creating a harmonious work environment.
Yeah.
The book talks about Joe Torre,
Oh, yeah.
the famous baseball manager,
Right.
as someone who really embodied this style.
Joe Torre was known for fostering team unity and creating a positive emotional climate.
So affiliative leaders are really great at building what we might call emotional capital,
Yeah.
that sense of trust and camaraderie
Exactly.
that allows teams to weather challenges and come out stronger on the other side.
I like that.
So it sounds like each of these styles can be effective in the right context.
Yeah.
But what about the commanding style? The do it because I said so approach.
The commanding style can definitely be useful, especially in crisis situations where you need quick and decisive action. But as the sources point out, it's not a style you want to overuse. Relying too heavily on the commanding style can create a culture of fear and resentment, ultimately harming your team's performance.
It's like that old saying, you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
Exactly. And even if you get short-term results with a commanding style, you risk damaging relationships and losing your team's trust in the long run. The sources even give a cautionary tale about a CEO who created a reign of terror with his overbearing and commanding style, ultimately driving away his best talent.
That's a powerful reminder that leadership is about more than just getting things done.
Yes.
It's about creating an environment where people feel valued, respected, and motivated to do their best work.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to a crucial point, developing our emotional intelligence.
Okay.
One thing that really stood out to me was that emotional intelligence isn't fixed.
That's right.
It's something that we can learn and grow in.
It's not about being born with a certain personality type. It's about being willing to put in the effort to develop your self-awareness, your ability to manage your emotions, and your social skills.
It seems like the sources are saying that anyone can become a more emotionally intelligent leader.
Absolutely.
If they're willing to put in the work.
Yes. And one of the frameworks that they present for developing emotional intelligence is the 5 discoveries framework. It starts with identifying our ideal self.
So taking a step back and asking ourselves, what kind of leader do I want to be? What are my values, my aspiration?
Exactly. It's about defining the qualities and behaviors that you want to embody as a leader.
Then the framework encourages us to take an honest look at our real self.
Yes.
Our current strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
This part can be a bit tough, can it?
It can be challenging, but it's so essential for growth. The sources highlight a story of Sophia, a leader who realized she relied too heavily on the pace-setting style, pushing her team to achieve goals, but creating a lot of tension in the process. She wanted to be more empowering and collaborative, but she first had to acknowledge her current tendencies.
That takes a lot of self-awareness.
It does.
It's not easy to admit our own shortcomings.
But without that self-awareness, it's impossible to grow. Once you understand the gap between your ideal self and your real self, you can start to create a learning agenda.
So making a plan for how you're going to develop those skills and change those behaviors that aren't serving you well.
Exactly. And that's where practice comes in. You have to intentionally use those new behaviors in different contexts. Think of it like learning a new language. The more you use it, the more fluent you become.
This framework seems so practical.
It is.
It breaks down the process of developing emotional intelligence into manageable steps.
And the sources also emphasize the importance of seeking feedback from trusted others throughout this process.
It's like having a support system.
Yes.
To help you stay on track and hold you accountable.
Exactly. They even mention an example of a women's study group at Cooper's and Lybrand. That provided a safe space for the women to support each other's growth and development.
That's a great example of how we can leverage relationships to help us become better leaders.
It is, but it's not just about individual development. The sources make it clear that leadership development is most effective when it's aligned with organizational change.
So it's not enough for individuals to develop their emotional intelligence. The organization itself needs to support and encourage these new behaviors.
Leaders need to model the desired behaviors and create systems that support those behaviors.
They used the example of Huntsman Dioxide.
Oh, yeah.
A company that went through a pretty significant transformation.
Okay.
They focused on improving their organizational climate by providing clear expectations, empowering employees, and emphasizing quality over quantity.
Okay.
And they saw incredible results. Their profits soared and employee morale skyrocketed.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It's a perfect example of how individual leadership development can have a ripple effect throughout an entire organization.
I agree, but here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The sources delve into this concept called action learning.
Oh, I've heard a little bit about action learning.
Have you?
Yeah. It's about tackling real-world challenges while simultaneously developing leadership skills.
Exactly. You learn by doing, but in a strategic, purposeful way.
I'm eager to hear more about that.
Okay.
And I'm sure our listeners too.
Great.
So tell me, what kind of impact does action learning actually have?
Well, the sources share a great story about a telecom company that decided to incorporate action learning into its leadership development program. And the senior vice president was absolutely floored by the participants' presentations at the end of the program. He actually said, "These people are leaders. I had no idea we could find this in our company."
That's a pretty strong endorsement.
Yeah.
So what were these participants actually working on?
Well, they were tackling real high-stakes challenges that the company was facing. You know, the kind of issues that keep executives up at night. But what's even more interesting is they weren't shying away from what the sources call the unspeakables. Those politically charged issues that everyone usually tiptoes around.
So it sounds like action learning gave them the confidence to really step up and make a difference.
Yeah. And, you know, that idea of tackling the unspeakables ties in perfectly with this broader theme of organizational change that runs throughout all of these sources, just like with individual leadership development. They emphasize the need for a clear-eyed assessment of where things stand. What are the unspoken rules? What are the emotional norms that are actually driving behavior?
So it's like taking a temperature check on the organization's emotional climate.
Yeah.
Figure out what's working, what's not, where the opportunities for improvement lie.
Exactly. Once you have that honest assessment, then you can start to paint a picture of what that ideal future state looks like. What kind of culture do you want to create? What kind of organization do you want to be?
It makes me think of Shoney's.
The
restaurant chain.
Yeah.
They faced a major lawsuit for racial discrimination.
Wow.
Which really forced them to confront their dissonant culture.
And to their credit, they recognized the need for a dramatic shift. They started by defining their ideal vision, a culture of inclusivity and respect, and then worked tirelessly to align their systems, their processes, their behaviors with that vision.
It's a great example of how leaders can really guide an organization through a transformative process.
Yes, but it's not always easy.
It's not.
The sources highlight the importance of aligning personal vision with organizational vision.
Okay.
Leaders need to be truly passionate about the direction the company is heading.
Otherwise, it's all just lip service.
Exactly. It all comes back to walking the talk.
Right.
Leading by example, creating a culture where everyone feels valued and empowered to contribute.
And that's where storytelling can play such a powerful role.
Yes. The sources share a really inspiring story about Monica Sharma, who led a transformative change initiative at UNICEF.
Okay.
She recognized that for people to be truly engaged, they needed to see and feel the impact of their work firsthand.
That makes a lot of sense.
So what did she do?
Yeah, what did she do?
Well, she actually took staff members from the home office out into the field where they could witness the life-saving work that UNICEF was doing.
Okay.
They saw children being vaccinated,
wow.
mothers receiving essential health care, and communities being transformed.
That must have been so impactful for them.
It was a powerful emotional experience that connected them to the deeper meaning of their work.
Wow, I can only imagine.
Yeah, and the impact on UNICEF's culture was remarkable. People felt a renewed sense of purpose and passion, and they were more committed than ever to the organization's mission.
So what can other leaders learn from Monica Sharma's approach?
Well, the sources really emphasize the importance of moving from talk to action.
Okay.
It's not enough to just talk about change.
Right.
Leaders need to roll up their sleeves and get involved,
Yeah.
modeling those new behaviors and creating systems that support those behaviors.
And those stories, those real-life examples of how the new culture is making a difference can be so powerful.
They really can.
Yeah.
But it's also important to remember that real change takes time and effort.
Yeah.
It's not something that happens overnight.
And it requires a commitment from everyone involved.
Yes.
Not just the leadership team.
And speaking of commitment.
Yeah. One of the most critical elements highlighted in the sources is the need for buy-in from the very top.
That's right. Without strong leadership support, any attempt at organizational change is likely to fizzle out.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
If the leadership team isn't fully on board, it sends mixed signals and people won't take it seriously.
The sources actually share a cautionary tale about a company
Okay.
that invested heavily in leadership development, but they didn't address the underlying cultural issues.
No.
They were trying to instill all of these new leadership competencies,
Right.
but those behaviors clashed with the existing culture.
I see.
It created a lot of confusion and frustration.
So what's the takeaway there?
You can't just focus on individual development.
Okay.
You have to look at the bigger picture.
Right.
How are the organization's systems, processes, structures supporting or hindering the development of emotionally intelligent leaders?
It's about creating an environment where those new behaviors can actually thrive. And I imagine coaching plays a big role in that, right?
Absolutely. The sources emphasize that coaching can be a game changer for helping leaders develop their emotional intelligence.
Right.
It offers a safe space for reflection, for feedback, and for experimentation.
It's like having a trusted advisor who can help you see your blind spots and push you out of your comfort zone.
One approach they mention is a day in the life, where a coach actually shadows a leader for an entire day.
Wow.
Observing their interactions, attending meetings, and providing real-time feedback.
That sounds intense.
It can be incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
And it's not just about one-on-one coaching. The sources also highlight the value of peer coaching and group coaching, where leaders can learn from each other's experiences and support each other's growth.
It's about creating a community of learners who can challenge and support each other.
Exactly. And ultimately, the sources emphasize that leadership development isn't a one-time event.
Right.
It's an ongoing journey of self-discovery, of growth, and of transformation.
It's about embracing a mindset of continuous learning and improvement, which is something I know our listeners are always striving for.
Absolutely. And that commitment to continuous learning is so essential. In today's rapidly changing world, leaders need to adapt and evolve to stay ahead of the curve.
But it's not just about staying ahead in the business world. One of the things that really struck me about these sources is how they connect emotional intelligence to personal fulfillment.
That resonates with me too.
So it's not just about being a better leader at work.
No.
But about living a more fulfilling life overall.
Exactly. Remember that example of the engineer who reconnected with his passion
Right.
by aligning his work with his personal values?
Yeah. He had always wanted to make a difference in his community.
Yeah, by helping to drill water wells in his native Kenya.
It's a powerful reminder that leadership is more than just a job title.
It is.
It's a way of being in the world.
Yes. It shows up in our families, our communities, and even our personal growth journeys.
And developing our emotional intelligence is so essential for that journey.
It is. When we can manage our emotions effectively, build strong relationships, navigate challenges with resilience, we create a ripple effect of positivity that extends far beyond ourselves.
You know, it's funny. We often think of leadership as something outward-facing.
Yeah.
But so much of it starts with looking inward, with understanding and managing our own emotions and motivations.
Couldn't agree more. And these sources make a very compelling case that developing our emotional intelligence can have a profound impact on our overall well-being.
So as we start to wrap up our deep dive into emotional intelligence and leadership, is there one final thought you'd like to leave our listener with? Something to ponder as they continue their own leadership journey. I think the most important takeaway for me is that emotional intelligence isn't some mystical quality that you either have or you don't.
Right. It's not like some magical thing.
It really is a set of skills that can be developed and strengthened over time.
And what I find so inspiring is that it's not about being born with a certain personality type or temperament. It's about the willingness to really do the inner work. To understand and manage your emotions, to build strong relationships, and to create a positive environment for yourself and the people that you lead.
And what I also appreciated is that the sources didn't just focus on being a better leader at work. They highlighted how developing emotional intelligence can contribute to a more fulfilling life overall.
Absolutely. That really resonates with me, too. Remember that example of the engineer who reconnected with his passion? By aligning his work with his personal values?
He had always dreamed of making a difference in his community. And by tapping into that deeper purpose, he was able to transform his own life and the lives of countless others.
It's a great story.
It really is. It's a powerful reminder that leadership isn't confined to the workplace.
It's not, no.
It's about showing up authentically. And with intention in every aspect of our lives.
I agree.
Our families, our communities, and even in our own personal growth journeys.
And the sources emphasize that developing our emotional intelligence can have such a profound impact on our well-being.
When we're able to manage our emotions effectively, navigate challenges with resilience, and cultivate those strong relationships, it creates a ripple effect of positivity that extends far beyond ourselves.
I love that.
It's like that saying, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. By developing our emotional intelligence, we're essentially changing the lens through which we experience the world.
That's a great way to put it. It allows us to approach challenges with greater clarity, compassion, and even creativity.
And it empowers us to build stronger connections with the people around us. And to make a meaningful difference in the world.
I agree.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, is there one final thought you'd like to leave our listener with?
Well, you know, we talked about the concept of the ideal self in the context of leadership development, but I think it applies to all areas of our lives. What kind of person do you want to be? What are your core values, your aspirations, your definition of a life well lived? And most importantly, what are you doing today to move closer to that ideal? It's a question worth pondering.
It is.
And I believe their answers lie within each of us.
That's a powerful question to leave us with. I know I'll be reflecting on that myself.
Me too.
Thanks for joining us on this Deep Dive, listener.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights into the world of emotional intelligence and leadership.
I hope so.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep leading with heart.